What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my impressions and thoughts about Encased after playing the full game for quite some time. I had played it during its early access and even when it was in beta because I backed it on Kickstarter many years ago in 2017. However, with its full release fairly recently, and before I actually do my full review after 100%, which should be coming in the next week or two, I just kind of wanted to share some thoughts on the full game itself, without going like full review mode. So with no further ado, let's jump into it. So starting with character creation, overall I like it. There is a lot of role-playing potential, and having played through most of the game, I can tell you that most of this is actually realized, and is fun to engage with in the actual game as well as character creation. However, I will mention that, like a lot of CRPGs and isometric games in general, they do this thing where they show you your character model up close during character creation, which I don't think ever helps a CRPG out most of the time. There are a few where they look very good, but a lot of times with these isometric games, especially the ones with AA budgets, the models are designed to be viewed from top down, isometric. So when you then bring yourself directly in front of the models, they look a little weird, which is kind of the case with Encased. Because actual gameplay in game, it looks good, but in your menus and stuff, they bring you right up on top of your character model. And it's pretty That's just graphical stuff, and on the actual mechanics and role-playing side, character creation, I think, is fairly self-explanatory. There's a few things I would want personally to change. So as it stands, the attributes, when you select those, in addition to affecting some stuff directly, they also affect your secondary stats, which you can see on the right here. The problem is, none of this is highlighted, so I just have this big list of stuff on the right that is changing, but I don't actually know without having to go back and forth every time I move an attribute point around to see exactly what is changing. And I wish when you had a attribute highlighted, it would also highlight the appropriate secondary attributes, so that was easier to read. But beyond that, the game does a pretty good job of giving you a tutorial for the game's systems, because Encased uses its own role-playing system, which overall, I think for a first outing, especially for a studio, it is pretty solid. There's things I would like to see improve, in the future. I'll save a lot of that for the review, but my point is there's room for improvement, but overall, very competent system. Some other things I wanted to mention is the game is kind of slow for the entirety of Act 1. Now it picks up after that and you can kind of explore the whole map. You get access to this big roving train called Ursula that you can go salvage and then actually use as a vehicle, which is really cool. And basically after Act 1, the game just feels a lot better because of the stuff they finally let you do. And because of that, I feel like people are going to get the impression from probably the first 10 hours or so of gameplay that this has a bit of a slower feel to it. Which in general is true because it's using turn-based as well as, RPG mechanics. They really want you to think your way around a situation. Most combat can be avoided. And technically, you can actually do a pacifist run where you don't kill anything, though that often involves the use of non-lethal weapons, which are a thing in this game. So on one hand, I would expect it to feel a little slower, but with a lot of CRPGs these days moving towards a bit of a faster pace, I'm curious how people are going to bounce off that, and, if they bounce off that, I should say. Because if they do, that's a real shame, because again, the game really opens up after Act 1. I had a lot more fun after I got out of Act 1. I also wanted to mention, the game definitely has a unique sense of humor. For instance, I actually wanted to give one example of this. I found an irradiated graveyard where I got sent for a secondary quest, and there was a grave that I dug up, and inside of it was a bit of armor called plot armor. And I was like, well, that's really weird. What's this about? So I checked the name on the gravestone, and it's Mary Sue. So for the uninitiated, a Mary Sue character is like a self-insert into a game, or franchise, or universe, whatever you want to call it. And usually it's the kind of thing where the character is just so overpowered and everything. So this grave of Mary Sue actually had a bit of armor called plot armor. And the flavor text was she's actually proficient in every type of martial arts. I got a pretty good laugh out of that. So there's definitely a good sense of humor, but that's kind of the style of humor, and you do see that throughout the game, which I enjoyed personally. For the sake of not going over long, I do want to talk about a couple of things I didn't find enjoyable. And the very top of that list is the pathing, especially for the companions. The pathing for your main character, or the character you're controlling, feels a little clunky overall, which, whatever. I play a lot of older CRPGs anyway. Not going to bother me personally that much. However, for your companions, it's a nightmare. they will hang way back from you, but you can't leave an area until you actually have everyone together, and you have to wait like a good 10 seconds for all of your companions to catch up, even when they're in follow mode. And for whatever reason, again, the character you're controlling will actually pathfind around found traps, so you don't have to like manually move them around. However, your companions will not. They will run right over anomalies and stuff, which gets really annoying really quickly. And I did also want to mention that sometimes quests can be a little unintuitive. So for the most part, you can approach everything pretty freeform, and then every once in a while you'll run into a quest where, unless you just do it by killing everyone, which is always an option, you can kill everyone and still beat the game. But if you actually want to see the quest and actually interact with it and everything, sometimes you have to follow a very linear path. Even if you're like, oh, well, I already want to do this thing, and you try to jump ahead a little bit, a lot of times the quest just isn't going to let you do that, and you wind up having to have the same conversation with somebody like 3 times as you try to move around this quest. As a specific example, I was supposed to help one of 2 people get promoted as a bit of a side quest, and you're sent to talk to their supervisor. And as soon as I got this quest, I had already done a quest for these 2 individuals trying to get promoted previously, where I'd already resolved their issues and kind of knew the things about the 2 that I wanted to know. So I was like, oh, I already know exactly how this is going to go. I want this person to get this promotion. So I went directly to their supervisor. I figured like, oh, hey, I've already done this quest. Surely they'll just let me be like, oh, hey, this is the person I want to pick. But no, they did not. I actually had to go talk to them again and then do some extra steps, even though I'd already done the associated meta side quest, which you would have still had to do, by the way, in addition to this other stuff. So little interactions like that I think could be handled better. Initial impressions wise, I am having a lot of fun. Again, the role-playing side of it, for the most part, is on point, outside of a few quests here and there, where it's just, like I said, a little unintuitive. But for the most part, you can approach everything how you want, and considering, again, this is a first outing for the studio, as well as the fact that this game is I think $20 right now, because it's on sale. Normally it's $30. A very fun experience, albeit with a little jank so far. Now that said, again, I should have a review after 100% coming here before too long, probably in the next couple weeks. I am actually fairly close to wrapping up to 100% on this. I have a couple of the endings I still need to see, as well as a few specific achievements that require playing certain builds, which I'm after. For the most part, pretty close to finishing it up. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom, and have an amazing day.